Hey everybody, so in today's video I'm going to talk about sweeteners. So artificial sweeteners, natural sweeteners, which ones in my opinion are perfectly fine for you to have on keto that will not affect your level of ketosis and that will not affect your weight loss results. So uh, I'm going to jump right in and show you guys the one I use right away. So in my coffee or in my tea or when I'm making the Keto Rescue Aid lemonade drink, I actually use liquid stevia to sweeten my drinks. In my coffee, I only use a few drops, and this stuff is 300 times sweeter than sugar, and it's actually based in a glycerol. So you can get stevia, liquid stevia that is in an alcohol base. You can get different ones. I find most of those ones very bitter, but this one here with the glycerol I actually find really good. So I have a great big bottle of it here, as you guys can see. I really enjoy this one. It's 237 milliliters, which is almost a full cup. This would last me 2 or 3 months, I'm going to say. Cost me, I think, $30 or $40, so it is a little bit more of a cost, but it's a great big size, so it'll last you literally months. And that's of me having 3 or 4 coffees every single day and putting a few drops in every coffee. So it really does go a long way. Again, it's Better Stevia, the one I use, Now brand. It's 0 calories. There's no glycemic effect, no insulin effect. The only small insulin effect that can happen from literally any sweetener or even the thought of something sweet is the hepatic effect. So that's your brain literally thinking of the sweetness, preparing for it, and having a small insulin response. And what I find happens with that is that decreases over time, and it doesn't happen in all people. A lot of people have zero impact. No impact at all on glucose or insulin, but there are a few people, and just the thought of that sweetness relates to something sugary, and it automatically has that small release of insulin. Does that really affect your weight loss though? No. Does it really affect anything negatively? I don't really think so, because there's 0 calories, 0 carb. It's a very small effect that it has. So in my opinion, having liquid stevia is perfectly safe. And I have seen people out there talking about avoid all sweeteners totally. I've been having this for 6, 7 years, the whole time I've been keto and low carb, and I've been able to lose weight very well. It doesn't cause cravings, no issues at all. And I've also recommended it to thousands of people, and I have never really heard somebody say, oh, I can't have stevia, that kicks me out of ketosis, or anything like that. It's never happened. So again, it's this one, Now brand liquid stevia. Here's another example. This one, it's probably okay, but I don't like the taste of this one. So some of you can get this one at Walmart, Skinny Girl Stevia. And I'm going to see what what the carrier is. So stevia is just so concentrated, it always has to have a carrier. Just like the powdered stuff would have erythritol or dextrose or something else. And I'm going to talk about that more in a second here. So the Skinny Girl one has water, erythritol, stevia extract, potassium sorbate. It has a few things in it. Nothing that really sounds all that bad to me. Malic acid. So it is okay. Erythritol and stevia are kind of the two very safe ingredients that you can have. I just find I like the taste of the other one a bit more. It's a little more smooth, I find. But it's up, personal preference. Maybe some people would like this one. It is a lot cheaper. This one's at Walmart. You can get it, a lot easier to find this one, and it's less money. I do found that I used it up quicker. So that's a couple examples. Another one that's perfectly fine on program is erythritol. So this is erythritol here, and the only thing with it is it's only 70% as sweet as sugar, so it's not as sweet. So you're going to need more. You might need 3 or 4 teaspoons or like a tablespoon of it or so. You're going to require more to have that same sweet taste. And again, there's no glycemic impact. It will not increase your blood sugar. It will not increase your insulin. And it's a good carrier for stevia. So if you want to make this more sweet and go further, then you might want to have a stevia erythritol blend. And there actually is a few companies that actually make that. So here's one, Sugar Twin, which has been around for a long time, and now they have a stevia and erythritol. version. So if you guys could see this, I don't know if you're going to read that or not, but it's erythritol and stevia leaf extract. So those are literally the only ingredients. So when you see just stevia and just erythritol, perfectly safe sweetener to have. There is one company called Stevia in the Raw, and they use a terrible ingredient. They use maltodextrin. I would avoid that one. So always look at the label. If it's stevia and erythritol, perfectly fine. If it has dextrose, well, dextrose is the same thing as sugar, same thing as glucose. So you don't want to have a lot of dextrose every day. And maltodextrin is the worst. It's about 140 on the glycemic index, so it's way worse than sugar, way higher on the glycemic index. So it's going to affect your blood sugar. It's going to affect your insulin more. So maltodextrin is one of those few ingredients I tell people to try to avoid. Most things, even sugar, like if it's only 1 gram of sugar, or 1 gram of dextrose, it's not the end of the world unless you're having 10 or 20 portions. But maltodextrin is just so high in the glycemic index that, you know, even small amounts can have a bit of an impact. Here's another example of one that's perfectly fine. This one is just stevia and erythritol, and it's Krista. And actually even Splenda. So Splenda now has an erythritol and stevia. So it's Splenda stevia, and it only has erythritol. So again, the Splenda stevia it's in the packets, it's actually perfectly fine. And this one here is also perfectly fine, Krista. So you'll need a couple of these because it's mostly erythritol, so it doesn't have a huge sweetness to it. But you'll find your sweet spot trying some of those. If you do want to have, if you miss sugar in your coffee or tea, then you can definitely have some of these, and they should not really affect your results. And after those ones, I would say the next best one would be allulose. It's a little more, it's fairly expensive and harder to find. You can get it on Amazon. Again, we'll probably have some links at some point in this email. I don't know if it'll be right away. But I'm going to try to, you know, add links to some of these videos where I'm talking about some of these things just to show here's the exact thing I'm talking about. Here's the exact erythritol stevia that I recommend or would say it's not going to affect your results any. So allulose is okay, and monk fruit. Monk fruit is almost as good as those other ones. It's more of a natural sweetener. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's okay because, you know, sugarcane could be considered a natural sweetener or an organic and everything, but it doesn't mean it's okay. But monk fruit is actually pretty good, pretty decent. A lot of people use it and have okay results. I have seen a couple studies showing a small impact on glucose and insulin, but it's generally a pretty safe one. And if you decide to use that, I think you'd be perfectly fine. Very little chance of it affecting your weight loss results or your level of ketosis. So, and after that, the next ones that I was going to talk about just for a second would be, so Splenda, which is sucralose. Sucralose is very, very, very potent, which to me, if it's a very, very small dose, it's probably not going to affect things negatively very much because it's such a small dose. And here's Splenda when in a powder. So this one here, you know, if you were going through a drive-through, you're still obviously better to have this type of Splenda than you would be to have sugar. There is 1 gram of dextrose in here. I'm going to read the package and it says, yeah, so the first ingredient is dextrose and it says 1 gram of carbohydrates. So you're basically getting 1 gram of sugar in a pack like this instead of, though, 4, 5, 6 grams in the big packs of sugar. So it's way, way less, a better option. If you're going through McDonald's, Tim Hortons drive-through, getting a coffee, this is usually what they would use, and it's not that bad. It's not that bad of an option. And it's up to the every single individual. Some people want to avoid sucralose, but I haven't really seen a really good reason to. I don't really think it's all that bad of a sweetener. And I think the liquid sucralose is probably even a better choice because it doesn't have that dextrose in it. So here's what the liquid sucralose looks like. There's actually liquid Splenda, and the liquid Splenda does not have any fillers. This liquid sucralose here, again, does not have any fillers. So this would be kind of, you know, if you don't like the stevia, some people are very sensitive to the taste. It's bitter no matter what they do. Usually it's using too much of it though. So just try a couple drops and just keep adding 1 drop at a time when you're using, something like the liquid stevia until you find that sweet spot. But if you just can't stand it, which that does happen to the odd person, I personally, I'm fine with it, and a lot of people are. But my wife, for example, she just doesn't like any stevia in any form. So she ends up using something like this, which is the liquid sucralose. So I'm just kind of peeking at it as I'm talking about it. And 0 calorie, 0 carb. Ingredients is water and sucralose. So literally just water and sucralose. So yeah, if you really hate stevia, then this would be, and you tried the monk fruit and that's not working for you for some reason, then this would be the next best thing. Very simple, and as you guys can see, 400 servings. So this goes a long way. You only need just a tiny little bit, like a few drops again, a tiny little squirt. A fraction of a teaspoon. So if you think about the dose, it's not really a very high dose. So it's not that bad. I think that's a decent one too. And that's basically all I was going to talk about. That's all the sweeteners. I will say that there's a few. I'm going to give you guys some that I would actually try to avoid. I used to really use xylitol a lot. Xylitol still has about a 10%, it's spelled with an X. It has about a 10% glycemic impact, so it is going to affect your blood glucose, it is going to affect your insulin a little bit. And it's deadly to dogs. So a lot of people don't realize that, but a lot of those sugar-free chewing gums, some of them use xylitol, and it's actually very, very toxic to dogs. And if a dog gets into that, it could put them into the vet in a very serious situation, and they could actually pass from it. So it could actually kill your dog having xylitol. So we don't even have it in our home. We have 2 small dogs here, so we're very cautious about it. The next one would be malitol. So you guys know those sugar-free chocolates, like the Russell Stouffer's, the green package, like the peanut butter cups and all that. They say sugar-free. Well, they're full of malitol. Malitol has about 50% of the glycemic impact is sugar. It's about a 30-35 on the glycemic index, sugar being a 70, which means it's going to raise your blood sugar, it's going to raise your insulin. It's a little better than sugar, but not that much. So malitol would be another one that I would avoid. And the other one that I mentioned earlier was maltodextrin. So maltodextrin is about 130 on the glycemic index, so I would definitely recommend avoiding that one. And dextrose, which is a common filler in a lot of these sweeteners. Again, it's the same thing as sugar. So if you see dextrose, it's the same as sugar. So in the end, guys, just to recap, in my opinion, it's liquid stevia is probably the best sweetener that you can use, followed up by erythritol, which is this one, or having a blend, of the 2 different sweeteners. So hopefully that was helpful. And I know some people really miss their sugar, they miss their sweeteners, and it doesn't mean you can't have anything sweet. I've been doing this the whole time. I've been able to lose 90 pounds while having these sweeteners pretty much every day, multiple times a day. So don't, if people are putting out the message that, avoid all sweeteners, you probably don't have to, especially if you're sticking to those 2 that I just mentioned. From what I've seen working with thousands of people, they've been perfectly safe. So I'll see you guys on the next video.